So fall of 1992, I came here as a first-year student, and the challenges for me that first year began before I ended up on campus. April of that year, as a senior in high school, I tore my ACL playing soccer, and really tried to figure out, okay, what do I do? And we had a lot of conversations about, should I defer and sort of wait until I heal? In the end, I wanted to get away from home. I wanted to get to college. So convinced my mother, who was really the defer person, that I should go. So I went through the entire orientation process the whole summer. I remember being here in middle of the summer on crutches, sort of on this very flat, not so flat campus, doing that whole orientation process on crutches. So I really came here at a disadvantage because I had to get around in a really challenging way. You add on top of that I was a tuba major. So I was a tuba major on crutches, and imagine trying to walk around the music building with crutches and a tuba. But I came here as a very accomplished tuba player, had done very well in high school, but came here and sort of got too into the college freedom thing, and didn't do well in tuba. And then that semester decided not to continue with that as my major, so then I transitioned to guitar. And after a semester of that, decided not to continue with that. And then the rest is sort of a history of many times being undeclared, trying lots of things, and eventually finishing as political science and criminal justice. I tested into Calculus 1, 205, having never taken calculus and never being strong in math. My mom said, it's college, challenge yourself, so I did. So I took calculus in Burris Hall, where we are now. It's still mildly challenging to be in this building. I'll get over it eventually. And from day one, just never really connected with it, never really got the concepts. And on top of that, got into a habit of not attending. And one of the reasons for that is I lived in Hillside, and Burris is at the top of the hill, and you have to pass PC Dukes to get there. So it was dinner time-ish, and I was on crutches, and the thought of all my friends are going to dinner, I'm on crutches, calculus class up the hill, or PC Dukes for chicken strips. And often chicken strips beat out calculus class. And the ultimate failure was I walked into the final. I did go to that. And walked in, got the test, was in there, big class, probably 30, 35, 40 people. Went through the whole test, looking through it, and realized I couldn't answer a question. I didn't know how to even start the test. So I sort of had this, what do you do in that moment? Do you sit here for 2 hours and let those 2 hours happen? So I finally was like, well, it's still dinner time, and I don't know how to do any of this. So probably about 8 minutes into the final, I had put my name on it. That's as much as I could do. I walked out, the faculty member was outside, handed him the test, said, I'm really sorry, I probably never should have been in this class. And that was fall, first semester. So not surprisingly, I got an F in that. Received that F when I was home for a break when we used to mail grades, and had to show that. And I actually have the copy of that. Ended up with a 2.16 that first semester. Even though being a great tuba player, got a C in tuba, because I also didn't practice that either, because I thought I was really good and I didn't have to practice, and didn't realize that I had to keep getting better at this. Had a B in reading and comprehension, a B in the freshman seminar, which no longer exists. Elementary class piano, got a B. And then I got a C and a C plus in my music theory class. So never really applied myself very well in that fall. But the F was my first ever F in college. I was never a great student, but I was never an F student. This is, I think, when I finally figured it out. I had a semester when I was president of my fraternity. I was vice president of another student organization. I was working 20 plus hours a week, and I got a 3.4. And what I realized was, when left to my own devices, I wasn't going to use my time well. But when I had to do, I think I was taking maybe 17, 18 credits, something like that, because I had to catch up. I needed to be that busy to finally focus on everything. And it was the first time in life I'd ever done everything I was doing well. The irony of all this is that growing up, maturing over the next 2 years, I then eventually, under our Repeat Forgive program here, 2 years later took Calculus 1 again, and I got a B+. It was really more about growing up and being mature enough to know that going to class is essential, paying attention in class is essential, studying after class, that just because your friend has the newest Madden NFL game or they like NHL more, but just because those exist doesn't mean you have to do that when you should be at the library. And in the end, never graduated with a great GPA. I finished here with about a 2.8. But that's a pretty good distance from what was a 2.2 and a 1.8. And the other thing I think is interesting for me is went on to getting a 3.9 in my master's when I was finally in coursework I loved and cared about, and ended up going on and getting my doctorate. And I have a neighbor. I lived in the same neighborhood my whole life, and I had this one neighbor who recently, when something got posted on Facebook about sort of academics and me getting my doctorate, she said, "Not bad for someone whose mom was worried he wouldn't get out of third grade." I think one of the things that I think a lot of students miss nowadays is this doesn't happen immediately. Some of you walk in the door and you're like, "I got this figured out. I know how to do college." You've never done college before. I'd never done college before. I'd never been on my own like that before. And being on my own, I didn't go crazy like some people did as far as socially and things like that, but I didn't use my time wisely. And I think it just took me time to grow up. I was immature, and it took me, until I was probably 19, 20 to figure out if I want to be ready for my future, I've got to start preparing now versus waiting until it happens.